Okay, let me share screen and we will continue. Okay. So yes, I'm really, I haven't looked at all of the projects, but like I'm really happy with what you guys are doing. Like I feel like, do you feel like you're absorbing the content? You feeling more comfortable working in vectors and, we got a lot to do this semester. We've got to do this, then we got to do Photoshop. And, this class didn't used to include InDesign, but we just got rid of the InDesign class. So I feel obligated to incorporate some InDesign into this class. So, we'll be doing that too. Okay. Okay. All right. We're gonna do just a few bits and pieces of material that we just haven't hit on yet that is gonna come in handy with any project you're working on. But the first one I want us to go over is color. So a lot of you are freshmen, a lot of you are first time transfers. I don't, some of you have some knowledge of the print industry, some of you this is totally new. So we're just gonna all try to get on the same page here. Illustrator is used for both print and for screens, web, or apps, or anything screen-based. And those are two totally different color modes. Okay, so we're talking right here about what we call color spaces. I don't know why it's called color spaces. Color modes, color spaces, whatever you're comfortable with. But there are a few, but the main ones are we've got CMYK, and we've got RGB. Okay. These are very, very different. Very different. Okay, so CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Don't ask me why they didn't use the B for black and they use a K, but that's what they did. Okay, so CMYK. This is the color space for printing. So for actually laying down ink or dye on paper or some other substrate. And basically, there's only so many colors we can see with our eyes. And there's only so many colors we can represent using ink. Okay, so if you've taken any painting classes before, you've learned a thing or two about pigment and how pigments mix together. And, pigments are made from minerals that we get out of the earth and whatnot. How do you create, a design that has all the colors of the rainbow using a machine that is printing tiny little dots of ink, line by line by line by line? Like, how is it possible? So over the years, a lot of research has been done, and through all of that research, it came to a front that these 4 inks or dyes, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, solve the problem. They offered the best options for creating a whole bunch of colors and within the spectrum. It's not perfect. There are a lot of reds that we can't replicate with CMYK. There's some greens that we just can't possibly replicate with CMYK, but we can come really close. So it has become the standard for print. Anytime you have a photo printed or a poster printed or anything, it's called 4-color process. 4-color process, CMYK. 4-color process for print. It's also known as subtractive color. Okay, it's subtractive color. And what that means is that, okay, I've got something printed, I'm looking at it, there's ink on the paper, right? Okay, the way I am, this is physics, okay? I didn't even take physics in high school, but whatever. The way I'm able to perceive it is that white light, so full spectrum white, is hitting the page. The areas that have color on them, some sort of ink, are absorbing some of the spectrum of that light. And then the rest is bouncing back into my retina. And that's how I'm able to see black and white and red and green and whatever on this page. So it's called subtractive because light is being subtracted before it's being experienced. So it's subtractive color. So that is how print works. RGB, red, green, blue, is known as additive. Okay, RGB is the color space for anything on a screen. Okay, laptop, a phone, I don't know, an Oculus, whatever you're looking at, anything that's a screen that's emitting light to you. So it's additive color. So RGB, red, green, blue. So within those screens are tons and tons and tons of tiny little diodes, diodes, that each one of them is calibrated to, depending on what you're looking at, a video or a game or a design or something. It has been given a quantity of red, a quantity of green, and a quantity of blue. And the mixture of those three creates the color of that pixel, of that diode that you're looking at. Okay. This is additive color because nothing's being taken away. Like with this, light's bouncing down, it's being absorbed and then bouncing back. With additive color, it's just the amount of energy that is pushed into that diode, into that pixel, determines the brightness and the color of that pixel. So it really is a superior way to view any digital image. And you've probably encountered this before if you've ever worked on a design or an image or something like that, and then you print it out and it's just kind of dull, right? You know, it looked so good on the screen, and then you print it out and it's a little bit like, not exactly what I was expecting. That's just always going to happen. It's just physics. There's nothing we can do. People go to great lengths to try to calibrate their monitors with their printers. It's not possible. I mean, you can get really close. You can get really close, but I mean, it's just physics. It's additive versus subtractive color. Like they're never going to meet. It's just not the way the universe works. So as a rule of thumb, you know, just as a side note, I find that if I'm working on a print piece, anytime I'm working, like maybe I want something with a tint, you know, I don't want it to be complete, you know, I don't want it to be too dark of a gray, but I don't want to be too light of a gray. Okay, 10% is a good rule of thumb. So if you go, you know, if you choose 20% gray, it's probably going to print out at 30% gray. So find the tint that you like and then dial it up a little bit lighter. And, you know, if it's a print piece, and then, you know, that's just my one rule of thumb for dealing with the difference between RGB. And most all graphics programs have in their settings, you can, you know, you can click into the control settings for the colors, and you can drag sliders, and you can, but they also allow you to input settings, and that can be very helpful for being very exact. Let's take a look at, well, okay. I'm gonna throw one more at you. Throw one more at you. And this is, oh, spot. Spot colors. Okay, this is print only. Does not exist on the web or on mobile or anything like that. Okay, so like I said, with CMYK for print, there's some colors you just can't produce combining all, you know, they just basically it's a mesh of dots of if you got a microscope or you know, or a loop or something, and you really looked at, you know, a printed image in a magazine or a box cereal or something, you would see a pattern of dots. It's like pointillism, and it's tricking your eye into seeing a color. And some colors just it's just not feasible. It's not possible to reproduce them. But we also have the option of using spot color. And what this is, and I actually brought a book right here, if you guys want to look at it. It's actual specific ink that is applied to whatever parts of the page you're applying it to. So the most common spot color is Pantone. They've been around for years. They're a manufacturer of inks. And I can, you can take a look at this book, but this is a book that has lots of examples of all their, I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds of inks that you can incorporate into your designs. And a lot of companies go this way because, like, for example, Coca-Cola, red, right? Coca-Cola's red. That specific Coca-Cola red, you can't make that with CMYK. CMYK can get kind of close, kind of Coca-Cola red, but it's just not as vibrant. It's just not the same color. So there's a specific, I think it's like, I think they actually copyrighted it. I don't even think you could use it. I thought it was like Pantone 185 or something. But it's a specific ink. So same thing with like Cheerios, the yellow box, right? You take a Cheerios box, you go in with a loop or a microscope or something, you're not going to see any CMYK dots in there. That is pure yellow ink. They're not messing around. They got to stay true to their brand. Okay. So in their printing process, they actually have the yellow on the box, and then they actually have a photograph of the bowl with cereal and the milk and everything. That's going to be CMYK for sure. I mean, you couldn't really do that with Pantone inks. So that's going to be not just a 4-color process, but a 5-color process, because they're adding the spot color. And maybe they're adding another color in there. I don't know. But it's just important for you to know as a designer when you're working on these projects that these spot colors are available to you. So you might have a client that is adamant about their company color, or you may have a client that wants to save money. Spot colors are also a way of saving money, because if you're printing something on an offset press, it's going to run through one time for one color. It's going to run through another time for another color, and those are going to be put together. 4-color process is 4 times. Okay, means you have to make 4 plates, which are like the prints, that go onto the paper. So you have to make 4 plates, which costs, 4 times however much that costs. You can design something with just 2 colors. You could choose a Pantone and then black, or a Pantone another Pantone, or something like that, and then you would be saving money. So I've done that a lot of times, especially when I was beginning designer, and I created duotones out of photographs where it wasn't a 4-color photograph, but it was black and white, and then a little bit of another color, so it's like a sepia or something like that. Like, you can do that, you can kind of save money. That's if you're working on an offset printer. These days, a lot of what we do is digital printing. So it's just all gonna be 4-color presses, so, you know. But you need to be aware of, spot color, as it comes in. So let's look at color. Let us look at color. Okay, let's go into Illustrator here. I'm gonna start a new file. Just gonna choose letter. Move this up here. Okay, so we talked a little bit about fill and stroke. Let's talk a little bit more about fill and stroke, okay? So I'm gonna make a shape. And by default, it's got I can tell because I've clicked on it here and over on the sidebar here. Oh wait, I'm not in the right color space. I'm workspace. Remember, we're supposed to be in Essentials Classic. There we go. Essentials Classic. Much better. So now I can see that on top is the foot and on bottom is the stroke. So if a white fill and a black stroke. Okay. And I can double click on that and I can get here, and now I see all sorts of options. I can click and drag around in here for the saturation and balance or brightness. Hue, saturation, balance, hue, saturation, brightness. They're kind of synonymous. I can adjust the hue with these arrows here. So then I can choose a different color. And there's so many options here. Right here we can see CMYK, and we're giving percentages values. Okay, these can be very helpful if you need to provide, detailed data on your color choices. Right down here, we have RGB, which we went over, which is, red, green, blue and then we have another one called HSB. So, this is another color space. It's kind of outside of print or web. It can kind of be either. H stands for hue, and hue would be the actual color. Okay, what you would actually call that color, right? Red. No matter how faint or bright it is, you would call it red. That's hue. Saturation is how, faint or bright it is. So right now the hue is set to, well, it's set to like this red right here. Okay. And then we go to saturation, and it's kind of like how much, if you were in a painting class, it would be like, how much black did you mix into that pigment? Okay, so it dulls it down. So the saturation it dulls down the color. And then the brightness is kind of like the opposite. How much white did you add to that pigment? Like how light is it getting? And these numbers are kind of strange. You notice that like right here at the end of Q, there's a degree sign. Q is measured in degrees. So like 360 degrees around the circle, you know? So you start at 0 with red and then you end up back again with red. That's what this bar here represents, is all of the degrees of the hue. I don't know why it's represented degrees, but it is. But saturation and brightness are represented in percentages. So right now we have 87%. I can type in 100% and we get like a really, really bold red. Do 100% on the brightness, and that's the reddest red we could possibly create. A hue of 360, saturation of 100, brightness of 100. Okay, so we've selected that color and there it is. Okay. So when you're working in your designs, you're probably going to want to have some sort of palette. There's certain colors that you're going to want to repeat throughout your design. So we can create, we can save the colors that we have created. So over here in this panel right here, there's a color option and there's a color guide, and what is that? And swatches. And they all do kind of different things. So I'm going to click on color, and color doesn't offer much. It just, you got this like eyedropper tool and a spectrum that you can barely take note of. We can click on the hamburger icon that says show options, and that's helpful because then we can go in and we could, bring down the black, add more yellow. We can work with these options here. Oops, I've lost it. So there's that menu there, color guide. Let's go over color guide in a second. Oh, this is color guide. Okay. And then this swatches is where I'm going to pull this out from the bar here. Swatches is where you can save colors. So you notice here, we've got some standard collection colors at the top. And then you've got these like folder icons. And the folder icons have a bunch. We can make a collection of colors that we save, so that we don't lose them for later. I mean, you can always retrieve colors. There's an eyedropper tool that will go in and you can click on any object and it'll grab all of its attributes. But it's very helpful to create. So let's say I wanted to create a palette. I'm gonna click new. I click the little folder icon here and so name it test. And then it grabbed the two colors that I have going on right now, which is this, I don't know, putty color and the black from the stroke. So now I have a collection. And if I create another color, like I just went in here and changed it to something else, I could then click on the upper square right there, and I could drag it over and I could add it right there. So now I have, this could be any of these colors here. So I've saved all of these colors. If for some reason you didn't save a color and you want to use it again, we have this magic eyedropper tool here. We'll go over that. That does a lot of stuff. It's very useful. But we click on the eyedropper tool. Well, first let me make another shape here. I'll make that one this color here. If I click on this, I click on the eyedropper tool right here. It's under the gradient tool. And then I click on the shape right here. It picks up the attributes. And because I had that top shape selected at the time, whatever I click on is going to pass on its attributes to the object that was selected. This is super, super useful, people. It's really handy when it comes to text. So you might have some text with all sorts of, typesetting implemented into it, and font size, and who knows what else, leading, kerning, whatever. You can just click the eyedropper tool and it'll apply all those attributes to whatever else you have selected. It's a huge time saver. So we love, love, love our eyedropper tool. What's underneath this? Let's take a look. I can't remember. Oh, the measure tool. I never understood this tool. Measure tool. So basically you click and drag and it tells you how long something is. I mean, you just get that information from the Pathfinder. I mean the what do you call it? Properties. I never understood that tool, but okay, well, there it is. And it's lumped with the eyedropper tool, so there you go. All right. Oh, he do he. Okay. What time is it? Oh my God, it's almost been an hour. Jeez. Uh, it's so much to go over, but I don't think we want to be here all night. Um, Talk about strokes. Okay, we have made strokes before, so you can make a stroke. If stroke being like a path that isn't closed, that's not a shape really. Well, I mean, no, what am I saying? What am I saying? I mean, shapes have strokes. There's fill and there's stroke. So we're just talking about the outside, like the lines around a shape or a path or something like that. So we can let's do this archy shape here. That's kind of cool. Okay, so we made a line here. Maybe you have played around with this and you have discovered that there is an actual, I'm going to close this swatches palette. Close. Okay. There's an actual palette called Stroke. Okay, I'm going to open it. I'm going to choose show options. A lot more there than what we were just offered. Okay, so there's different things we can do here with our stroke. We can control the weight of it. Right now it's 1 point. I'm gonna make it 10 point. All right. You can control the cap. So right now, if we zoom in, we can see that the dot comes right to the end of the stroke and then it cuts off. Bump, like at a almost 90-degree angle. We can choose to round that off. Then we get a rounded stroke. And we can choose, it's called projecting cap. So it basically takes half of the stroke's width, pushes that forward, and then caps it off with corner points. So we can do that. If we had, let's see, let me get rid of this. We had, okay. No. I think we want this right here. If I take a pen tool and just make a line like this. Okay. Okay. Now I have just made a path with 3 anchor points and a corner point. We choose this corner point. We have some choices here. Right now, it's what's called a miter join. I don't know if you're into carpentry, doing miter sawing, or I don't know. My mom was a carpenter. I am not. Okay. We also have the option of using a rounded joint, so I can round that off, or I can actually just do a very harsh cut like that with, what is this called? The bevel join. Bevel join. Okay. So that's the different types of corners you can create. I kind of like the rounded one. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna go rounded on the ends too. Okay. All right. Okay, and then we've got dashed line. Okay, look at that. I clicked on dash line and I got this result. Let's bring this down a little bit in size. Okay, 6 points, good. Okay, then we have all these options here. 12, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And let me, you can determine the size of the dash and the size of the space. So if I here said 8, oh, I gave it 8 points in between. And then what if I say 24? Okay, so I'm getting a very different line here. I'm saying 12 point, 8 point, 24 point. So I'm not exactly sure how that's being interpreted here. Let's see. I mean, this looks like a 12, say 12, this, okay. I'll be honest, I am not clear on how it calculates these, if anyone has anything to say. What if I do 12, 8, 24? Okay, I mean, that's what I get. I really honestly don't quite, I normally just make a regular dotted line with a dash and a gap and a dash and a gap and dash gap that are all the same. So I don't, fooling around with all of those fields. Play around with it. You might come up with something really interesting. There's also different ways to deal with the corners. So I'm not totally sure how it calculates these as well, but one of them says preserved exact dash and gap lengths, and then the other one says aligns dashes to corners and path ends, adjusting lengths to fit. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you can play with those two to get the effect that you want. So those are strokes. One thing to note is if you have a shape, I don't want a gap. I do not want a dashed line right now. Thank you very much. Okay, very good. If you have a shape, let's see if I can remember this correctly. And I resize the shape. The stroke is the same width, no matter what size we're working with. We can change that. Let me try to remember. I think it's in the settings. No. Selection anchor display. There's somewhere where you can make it so that the stroke actually scales with the object. So the point value of the stroke would actually increase or decrease depending on the size. I'll have to look that up for you and get back to you, but by default, it stays the same, but you can change that, and sometimes you do definitely want to change that if you have like been working on illustration at a certain size and you need to resize the whole illustration, like you want the fidelity of those strokes to match your original concept. Okay. Okay. What time is it? 7 o'clock. Do we need a break? I've been talking a long time here. Let's take a break. I need a break. Let's go get a drink of water. Be back by like 7:05. How does that sound? I'm okay. Okay, yeah, I definitely need it. So, okay, and then we'll do more of this. I'm just dumping stuff at you today, guys. I don't really have an exercise or an assignment for you. I'm just trying to get as much crammed into your brain as possible before we move on to Photoshop. So, okay, break time. Break time. Mirror edge. Okay. Okay, all right, okay. There's only one more thing. Oh, wait, didn't really. Forgot to go over something with regards to lines and strokes. I'm gonna make a line here. Okay, made a line. I'm gonna pull up stroke palette. Okay, all right. One thing we got into dash lines. I never got into arrowheads. So if you wanted to make an arrow, to point to some very important piece of information that you don't want the viewer to miss, right here, we have arrowheads. And there's two drop downs. One is for the beginning of the line, where you started the line, and one is for the other end. So I'm going to choose the first one and see what we get. So there's all these arrows to choose from here. I'm going to choose arrow number 1. And I get that. And if I wanted to switch it and put the arrow on the other end, I can hit that. In order to make, what does this do? Oh, that's interesting. You can choose where the arrowhead is aligned to. So does it align pointing tip first into the anchor point, or is the anchor point the center of the arrowhead shape? Okay. You can control the scale of it. So I can make it smaller, if I wanted to. That didn't do anything. The hell? Come on now. Oh, had to enter it twice. Okay. Okay, whatever. So anyway, arrowheads. You can make arrows. You don't have to, go to the trouble of making a triangle and then combine it with a line and It'll, and you can, there's many different types of arrowheads you can use, for things. You can probably even download more libraries of arrowheads. I'm sure there are. Okay. What I want to go over with you now, and this pertains to our next project, which I haven't assigned yet. We've, we've a few more things to go over. Probably on Thursday we'll sit down and talk about it. It's gonna be a map, some sort of creative interpretation of a map of your choosing, and Thursday we'll look at some examples of some really interesting maps people have created over the years. Don't you love this building? Don't you? You don't get this in Conley. You don't get this in Conley. Okay. So far we've talked about packing order, one thing being on top of another thing and being on top of another thing, which is, really helpful. There's an even more powerful way to control how you select items and put items on top or beneath of each other, and that is the layers palette. And the layers palette really is, it's your best friend. Like, you really, you want to get good at the layers palette. So, it's not, for some reason, it doesn't, wait, oh, no, it's right here, right here. Well, I mean, you can go up to window and go down to layers. That'll be fine. Or it's this icon right here, the two squares on top of each other. I'm gonna click that. I'm actually gonna pull it out from that bar and have it as its own. Okay. So I've got a document here with nothing on it. There's nothing there. We have a layer, it says layer 1. So by default, it just gives you layer 1. And that's your layer 1. Let's make some shapes here. So let's do a little circle. Move it, duplicate, grab all of them, drag them down, duplicate. Okay, so I've made a pattern of circles on this page. So there's a little, I'm still in layer 1. Okay, I haven't made any second or third layers. If we click this little arrow here that kind of like a little drop down, you'll see all of these shapes now. There is, each one of these represents one, they all say ellipse, and each one represents one of the circles that I just created. What's really nice is that over here, I mean, well, right here, there's this empty circle next to it. Right here next to it in this empty space, there's no indication that you can actually click there, which is kind of strange, but you can. And if I click there, that makes whatever's on that level is selected. So I clicked there and that last circle that I made is now selected. I click on here, it selects this circle. If I click on here, it selects this circle. So it's a way of being kind of precise about what you're selecting. Now notice if let's say I grab a row and I'm going to group them, going to hit Command G, and then I grab another row, Command G. I'm going to group all of these rows, Command G, Command G, and again, and again, one more time. Okay, so now each row is grouped. So if I click on it, the whole row is selected. Notice now that I have layer 1, and now instead of it saying ellipse, 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 it says group, 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 group. So it's recognizing each of these as a unit. And we can well, okay, let me not get ahead of myself here. Okay. Now let's say I wanted to create some sort of background for this. So I'm going to choose my rectangle tool. Command M if you're curious. I'm going to make, no, wait, before I do that, I'm going to make a new layer. And in order to do that, with this right here, create new layer. There's a little square down in the corner here. You hover over it, it's going to say create new layer. Okay, layer 2. Okay. Now I'm going to click and drag. Ooh, a little too much. Click and drag. And I want to fill this with, wait for it. I don't want to be RGB. I want this color. Okay. Okay, so it's covering up all of the circles that I created. But now look at our layer panel. We have got layer 2 on top of layer 1. I can change that. I can click on the circle here and no, wait, how do I drag it down? I think I just drag it down. Yeah. I just drag it down. And now it's below layer 1. There's other things that you can do with layers. This eyeball right here, you can turn them on and off visibly. They still exist. You haven't lost them, but they're just out of sight for the time being. So I can turn them on and off. I can turn the pink on and off too. And then to the side in this empty space, again, doesn't give you any indication that you can actually click on it, but you can. It's a lock. So I just clicked in there. I just locked the pink layer. So now, no matter what I do, it's stuck there. It's not going to move. These can be very, very powerful when you're trying to make specific selections on objects and lock them down. This can be very, very powerful. So for the project that you're going to do, we'll talk more about it on Thursdays, that you're going to create some sort of map. Can be as interpretive and creative as you want, or it can be completely literal. It could be Fresno State campus. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But there are certain layers to a map, right? You've got the ground layer, you've got roads, you've got dirt, you've got roads, you've got buildings, you've got labels, text that identifies certain objects and everything in that map will, you're going to organize it by layers and groups and things like that. So just be thinking about, it could be anything. It could be your neighborhood and, how many jack-o'-lanterns people are putting out for Halloween or something. I don't know. It could be completely fantastical. I taught this class 10 years ago, and like everyone did Middle Earth. It was all Middle Earth all day. Like everyone was Tolkien. So I had a lot of maps of Middle Earth, and that was great. That was awesome. So it could be a map of your brain. I don't know. Like this section does this and this section does this, and it could be a map of your room. It could be anything. As long as it's got layers. It is 7:22. Shall we call it a night? Yeah. Yeah, I don't like night classes either. Okay. I get home. I can go home to my little boy. He's waiting for me to read him a story, you know? Although he doesn't want me reading stories anymore, he just wants to play Minecraft, but that's okay. Or Fortnite. Fortnite. It's all about Fortnite right now. Oh, it's all Fortnite all the time. Yeah. Although he he got a big bag of loose change from his grandpa, and we took it to the Coinstar machine. We got like $57 and he bought Grand Theft Auto. So now it's Grand Theft Auto 3, which is like 2001. Like, I didn't think he would be into it. He is totally into it. He is totally into it. What? Yeah. Yeah. So surprised it was so expensive, like for a 2001 video game. It was like $54. Well, it was a trilogy. So there was other stuff. There's other stuff in there, but you know, the main one was that. But yeah, he just